Happy Wednesday, everyone. Well, not if you're Whoopi Goldberg, a.k.a. Karen Johnson. Yeah, who knew Whoopi was a...
The saga of Whoopi Goldberg's on-air meltdown on The View, sparked by a verbal sparring match with Greg Gutfeld, is a spectacle that demands a deep dive into the chaos of daytime television, ego-driven discourse, and the cultural fault lines that make such moments resonate. What unfolded was not just a clash of personalities, but a microcosm of the broader dynamics at play in media, where feelings often trump facts, and the loudest voice in the room assumes it's the most righteous. This wasn't a mere disagreement. It was a theatrical implosion, a masterclass in how unchecked hubris can unravel under the slightest pressure. Let's unpack this drama, frame by frame, and explore why it captivated audiences, lit up the internet, and exposed the fragility of The View's carefully curated echo chamber. It all began with Whoopi Goldberg, a daytime television titan whose persona is built on delivering hot takes with the gravitas of a seasoned oracle. On The View, she reigns as the de facto leader, steering discussions with a blend of righteous indignation and theatrical flair. The show, once envisioned as a platform for diverse perspectives, has long since devolved into a kind of televised group therapy session where 5 co-hosts compete to outdo each other in moral superiority. The panel, including Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Anna Navarro, often operates like a synchronized chorus, nodding in unison and amplifying each other's takes with the fervor of a congregation at a revival. Dissent is rare, and when it appears, it's swiftly drowned out by a cacophony of interruptions or sanctimonious glares. This is the environment in which Whoopi thrives, her voice rising above the fray as she delivers pronouncements that blend half-read headlines with emotional grandstanding. The inciting incident came when Whoopi, in a moment of breathtaking historical revisionism, declared on air that the Holocaust wasn't about race. The statement, uttered on a show that often frames every issue through the lens of racial justice, was a self-inflicted wound of monumental proportions. It wasn't just a misstep. It was a detonation that shattered her credibility and invited a firestorm of criticism. The View, a platform that prides itself on its progressive bona fides, suddenly found itself grappling with a scandal of its own making. ABC, the network behind the show, responded swiftly, suspending Whoopi for 2 weeks, a move that sent shockwaves through the media landscape. For a figure as entrenched as Whoopi, this was more than a slap on the wrist. It was a public humiliation, a rare moment when the Queen of Daytime was forced to face consequences. Enter Greg Gutfeld, the Fox News host whose brand of biting sarcasm and irreverent humor has made him a formidable player in the world of political commentary. Gutfeld, unlike the panelists on The View, doesn't rely on moral posturing or emotional theatrics. His weapon is wit, sharpened to a razor's edge and deployed with surgical precision. When he caught wind of Whoopi's Holocaust comment, he didn't just criticize, he eviscerated. His response was a masterclass in rhetorical demolition, blending humor with hard-hitting truths that exposed the absurdity of her claim. Gutfeld didn't just clap back. He launched a verbal missile that obliterated the flimsy foundation of Whoopi's argument. The result was a meltdown so spectacular it could have been scripted for a reality TV finale, complete with dramatic sighs, tearful side eyes, and a palpable sense of disbelief from Whoopi that anyone would dare challenge her. What made this moment so explosive wasn't just the content of the exchange, but the context in which it unfolded. The View has become a cultural institution, albeit one that's increasingly disconnected from the realities of its audience. The show's format, which pits a panel of outspoken women against each other in a supposed battle of ideas, has long since abandoned any pretense of intellectual rigor. Instead, it's a showcase for performative outrage where the goal isn't to persuade but to preach. Whoopi, as the ringleader, sets the tone, her voice booming over the table as she delivers takes that are less about substance and more about signaling virtue. Her co-hosts, eager to keep pace, fall in line, their contributions often reduced to echoing her sentiments or piling on with their own brand of sanctimony. This dynamic has turned The View into a kind of televised echo chamber, where dissenting opinions are treated like invaders in a walled garden. The audience, conditioned to expect a certain level of ideological conformity, rarely sees the panel challenged in any meaningful way. When a guest dares to push back, they're quickly shouted down or dismissed with a patronizing smile. This insularity has bred a kind of complacency among the hosts, particularly Whoopi, who seems to believe her opinions are unassailable by virtue of her status and volume. It's a dangerous illusion, one that Gutfeld shattered with ruthless efficiency. Gutfeld's takedown wasn't just about Whoopi's Holocaust comment. It was a broader indictment of The View's entire ethos. He pointed out the hypocrisy of a show that claims to champion diversity of thought while punishing anything that deviates from its narrow worldview. He mocked the panel's tendency to equate every issue with race, only to backtrack when it suits their narrative. And he did it all with a smirk, his humor cutting through the sanctimonious fog like a beacon of clarity. For viewers frustrated with The View's relentless moralizing, Gutfeld's commentary was a cathartic release, a reminder that not everyone buys into the show's self-righteous posturing. Whoopi's response to Gutfeld's roast was a study in emotional unraveling. Rather than engage with his arguments, she doubled down, leaning into her signature blend of indignation and victimhood. Her face, a canvas of exaggerated expressions, told the story. The furrowed brow, the dramatic sigh, the how dare you glare that's become her trademark. It was performance art, not debate, and it played out like a scene from a melodrama. Her co-hosts, sensing the chaos, scrambled to her defense, their reactions a mix of forced concern and performative outrage. Joy Bear muttered something incoherent, Sunny Hostin unleashed a torrent of buzzwords, and Anna Navarro groaned theatrically, as if the very act of disagreement was an affront to decency. The internet, as it does, seized on the moment with gleeful abandon. Memes proliferated, reaction videos flooded social media, and TikTok became a battleground for viral edits set to dramatic music. Whoopi's meltdown wasn't just televised, it was dissected, remixed, and roasted in real time. The audience, both in the studio and online, wasn't buying her victim narrative. They saw through the theatrics, recognizing the meltdown for what it was, the inevitable result of an ego unaccustomed to scrutiny. Gutfeld, meanwhile, emerged unscathed, his sly grin and quick wit cementing his status as a cultural provocateur. He didn't need to gloat. The internet did it for him, turning his takedown into a digital victory lap. What's striking about this episode is how it encapsulates the broader dysfunction of The View as a cultural institution. The show, once a novel experiment in bringing diverse voices together, has become a caricature of itself. Its discussions, if they can be called that, are less about exploring ideas and more about reinforcing a predetermined narrative. The hosts, insulated by their fame and the show's format, seem to believe they're above reproach, their opinions sacrosanct by virtue of their platform. This arrogance is particularly pronounced in Whoopi, whose tenure on the show has only deepened her sense of entitlement. She's not just a host, she's a gatekeeper, wielding her influence to shape the conversation and silence dissent. Yet, as Gutfeld's roast demonstrated, that influence is fragile. When confronted with a sharp, well-aimed critique, Whoopi didn't rise to the occasion, she crumbled. Her meltdown wasn't a one-off, it was the culmination of years spent in an environment that rewards volume over substance, feelings over facts. The View's format, which thrives on manufactured drama, has created a feedback loop where the hosts are perpetually validated, their egos inflated by the applause of a loyal audience. But outside the studio, the world is less forgiving. Viewers, particularly younger ones, are growing weary of the show's sanctimonious tone, its relentless moralizing, and its refusal to engage with opposing views. Gutfeld, by contrast, represents a different kind of media figure. His show on Fox News, while polarizing, leans heavily on humor as a tool for commentary. He doesn't pretend to be above the fray. He revels in it, using satire to expose the absurdities of modern discourse. Unlike The View, which treats every disagreement as a moral failing, Gutfeld embraces the messiness of debate, poking fun at everyone, left, right, and center, when they deserve it. His audience, which skews younger and more diverse than The View's, responds to this approach, drawn to his willingness to call out hypocrisy without resorting to sanctimony. The ratings tell the story. While The View still commands a sizable audience, its viewership is aging, its relevance fading in an era where authenticity and wit trump performative outrage. Gutfeld's show, meanwhile, is on the rise, its numbers climbing as viewers flock to a format that feels fresh and unfiltered. The contrast couldn't be starker. One show is a relic of a bygone era, clinging to its cultural cachet. The other is a scrappy upstart, thriving on its refusal to take itself too seriously.